So today we're rolling back the years to look at some thrash metal history. So in the male-dominated trenches of thrash metal back in the 80s, one band from Westchester, New York, blazed a trail of their own. And they weren't just a female version of something else, they were Meanstreak. And Meanstreak proved that technical ability and aggression weren't just things the boys with long hair could do. So who were Meanstreak? Let's look at a little bit of history. So the band were formed way back in 1985, formed by two guitar players, Marlene Apuzzo and Rena Sands. So obviously it's not going to be much of a band just with two guitar players. So they employ the services of powerhouse vocalist Bettina France on bass, holding down the low end. We have Lisa Pace, and finally on drums is Diane Keyser, who replaced a few other drummers, and that is their settled lineup. So I think the band had initially more of a poppier sound than they would end up getting, but I think at one point they must have thought, yes, thrash metal, that's what we want to do, quite rightly so. So let's look at the recording of their as yet only one studio album. So back in 1988 they go to Pyramid Sound and record a full-length album, and that album is called Roadkill. The album featured technical melodic thrash, which in my humble opinion was up there with the big four. So style wise, power metal with melody and thrash is how I would describe this. Influences coming from the new wave of British heavy metal, old school bands like Judas Priest, and the first line of thrash bands coming from the USA. Now songs like Snake Pit, that shows their level of technical riffing, and then you have longer songs which are like a multi-part epic. So in the early days, Meanstreak are playing a sort of local club scene in Westchester, New York. I find that quite hard to say, Westchester, New York. But then they broaden their horizon, they get into New York itself, and then they start supporting bigger bands in bigger places. Let's have a quick look at some of the bills they were on back in the day. So despite recording a great album and all these cool support gigs, and international press as well, you know, I remember reading about them in Kerrang. So despite all that, for whatever reason, they didn't take off quite as much as I would have thought. There was no second album to be had, and the band split up. 1994, I guess, grunge was all encompassing at that point in time, and I don't think thrash metal was going to be as popular, and they just decided to call it a day. But who would have guessed, years later, there is a Dream Theater connection here. 3 members of the band Meanstreak married 3 members of the band Dream Theater. That's right, prog metal legends Dream Theater. Rena Sands marries John Petrucci. Marlene Apuzzo, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, marries Mike Portnoy, the legend behind the drum kit, Mike Portnoy. And Lisa Pace marries John Myung. Now, again, please excuse my pronunciation of these names, I'm Scottish. And the band Meanstreak, reunite to play gigs with Dream Theater. Initially, 2023, they did some support gigs on John Petrucci's solo tour, but then they end up supporting the full Dream Theater, prog metal legends Dream Theater support Meanstreak. And in 2024, Meanstreak are back in the studio and record a new EP, the Blood Moon EP, which to me proves that their thrash metal chops, their aggression, just their skill, great songwriting skills, has not diminished since 1994 when they first split up. So to sum up, for me, Meanstreak remain the blueprint for women in thrash metal. They didn't just break the glass ceiling, they shredded all the way through it. So please do let me know in the comments, what is your opinion on Meanstreak? Do you still go back and listen to the album? Did you get the new EP when it came out? Did you see them supporting prog legends Dream Theater? As ever, it's a privilege and a pleasure bringing you content on Dunsi's Guitar World 2. Cheers for now.